What's up, y'all? I'm Corey Knapp. Welcome to a match week edition of 90 on Peachtree. That's right, Atlanta United is back this weekend for a match on Sunday. They're taking on the Philadelphia Union, the team that knocked them out of the CONCACAF Champions League. But it's not really a great thing for me that Atlanta United and the MLS is back this weekend, and I'm going to tell you why in this episode. So, being soccer fans watching this episode, you probably know there's a lot of soccer going on right now in the world. Euro 2020, the Copa América, getting ready for the Olympics, a lot of under-23 teams. The Gold Cup is later on this summer. And that puts the MLS in a very, very tough situation, especially with so many of its players coming from America, coming from Mexico, and some of the Central and South American regions. A lot of those teams are playing in the Copa America and the Gold Cup, and we're going to be without a lot of those players for a lot of MLS teams coming up, and that's not good for the league at all, and it's really not fair to the teams whose best players, like Atlanta United, come from those countries and play for those countries internationally. And it's a shame, really. Atlanta's going to be without Josef Martinez for its next several matches. They're probably going to be without Barco for a good portion of the summer, too, as he plays with Argentina's U23 team. And that's going to be the case throughout the MLS. And, maybe the first response to that is, oh, well, teams need to build up their depth and really emphasize building up depth. But it's hard to do that when the MLS has such a tight salary cap and is unlike any other league in the world where there's not really the ability to free spend. And it's really hard to build up quality depth for cheap when you're going to need those guys for 6-7 matches at a time. And it doesn't make sense. And it brings into question MLS's schedule overall, which has kind of been a tipping point for me since I started watching Atlanta United. It's something that MLS, maybe Liga MX, getting on that European schedule and just being in line with the international breaks, with the international tournaments, is something that probably needs to happen sooner than later. If the MLS wants to continue to grow and be recognized and taken seriously as a big league in international soccer. Because MLS can't say, oh, we want to attract the best players and the greatest young players from a lot of these regions and then say, oh, you know what, we're actually going to be playing during Copa America. We're going to be playing during the Gold Cup. We're going to be playing during Euro 2020. Sorry.
Why?
So you're penalizing teams for having those players who are good, who have to go on international break, or you're penalizing those players and saying you got to make the choice between playing for your club or playing for your country on an international stage. And 9 times out of the 10, maybe 10 times out of the 10, players are going to go play for their country. They're going to miss 7 or 8 regular season games and go play for their country on a bigger stage. And it's not really an Atlanta United problem, but they're going to really face the brunt of it. I mean, no Josef and no Barco for a handful of matches is significant. And look, no one's going to feel sorry for them. No team in the MLS is going to be like, oh, dang, don't have to play Josef against Atlanta this weekend. Don't have to face Barco. Don't have to worry about them. No, they're going to take advantage of that and try to do their best to kind of swipe 3 points from the 5 stripes out from under them. But when it comes to MLS, the salary cap, the schedule, these are things that are holding the league back on an international scale, and that's why they're continue to not be taken seriously, because there's no other leagues in the world right now that are playing. And so, what are we doing here?
What are we doing? What are we doing?
And then on top of all of that, after 3 weeks off, to come back and say, all right, you guys have 3 matches in 8 days after that long of a layoff, that's just asking for trouble. And so it's one thing after another on the small scale and on the large scale for MLS. So they're really going to need to figure out, do we go to the European schedule? Do we take an elongated break during these summers and the years that have these tournaments? I mean, yes, you want to capitalize on everyone's watching Euro, everyone's watching Copa America, but no one's going to say, ooh, now I want to go watch my depleted team whose best players aren't playing right now in the MLS, but just to say I'm going to watch the MLS. There's a balancing act there, but fans want to watch the best players on the biggest stages. They don't want to watch a bench squad take on a bench squad in an MLS game after they've watched France and Germany go at it for 90 minutes on the Euro stage. So there aren't really easy answers. It's not a quick fix, but these are definitely things that MLS needs to start considering, and quickly, especially as the sports calendar starts to normalize after COVID, postponements of these tournaments. But MLS really needs to figure it out. Are we going to play in the summer? Are we going to try and play kind of in the normal European schedule in the fall and spring? How are we going to do this? Because competing against these international tournaments isn't a good idea, and having your best players in your league not playing for several weeks because they're playing on these international tournaments isn't good for your league, and definitely isn't making your teams and their fans happy at all. So it's something the MLS really needs to figure out and maybe do an entire schedule overhaul, and that's something too that if we ever get to the North American Super League of Canada, United States, and Mexico, where it's all one league and they're all doing something together, that can be remedied and put them kind of back into the European schedule and the schedule that really the rest of the soccer world is on. And that would help immensely take the MLS a couple steps higher into where it wants to be with its international reputation. So with all that said, let's hope Atlanta United runs Philly out of the building on Sunday. It'll be their first meeting since Philly knocked them out of the Champions League, as I said at the start. First time in the Benz since Philly had that insane second half, scoring 3 goals. And, the fans are going to want to really, really turn it up and make it quite a fun environment to play in, regardless of who's playing, whether the stars are out there or not. And like I've said, there's not really going to be many out. So enjoy the game on Sunday, and we'll see you back here next week on 90 on Peachtree. I'm Corey Knapp. Follow me, follow Atlanta Sports Unlimited, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next week.